Most pianists think the solution to better playing and faster improvement is more practice time. I think that's backwards. One of the most powerful practice tools I use costs $15 to $20, and rather than telling me how long I have to practice, it actually limits how long I'm allowed to spend on a single concept. When sitting down to play, beginners often think,
I need to practice 30 minutes a day.
Or some arbitrary amount that their teacher told them or that they heard online. But then you actually sit down to practice and you don't know what to do. Maybe you look at your list of assignments and somehow you're both bored and overwhelmed at the same time. After 5 to 10 minutes, you look at your phone and then, well, here you are, scrolling or watching videos. You may even use a timer for your practice. You'll say, I just need to practice until the timer goes off. This just leaves you watching the clock, hoping that the time will go by faster. No wonder it's hard to see fast improvement in your playing. But the problem isn't the timer, and I wouldn't even necessarily say that the problem is you either. The problem is that time has become the goal of your practice instead of a constraint. When time becomes the goal, improvement becomes kind of accidental rather than intentional. Once that shifts, you'll start to get a whole lot more done in much less time. So instead of using a timer to get you to practice longer, we're going to use a timer to limit how long you're allowed to practice a particular task. To make this easy, I use a Pomodoro cube timer. You turn it on and then it has some predetermined amounts that you can time. So here's 10 minutes, 25 minutes, 5 minutes, right? And there's even this screen on the front, once you choose a time, that you can see how much you have left. Here's what I do when I practice with this timer. I set a goal for the practice segment. Maybe it's a specific section that I'm going to work on or a particular skill that I'm working on. And then I pick an amount of time that I think I can solve that problem in. I put that amount of time on the top of the cube, and then I set it down. And then when the timer goes off, I have to stop. If I accomplish the task, great, I'll move on. If I didn't, I save it for a later practice segment or maybe another day. If I'm really feeling motivated and want to keep going, I can always reset the clock like this, and then I can just keep going. Notice how none of this is about making yourself practice longer. It's about choosing how little time you think it will take to solve a problem in the music that you're playing. Now, how you actually split up a large problem into 5-minute or 25-minute chunks is probably the topic of another video, but let me quickly show you one practice technique that jazz pianists use that is perfect to use with a timer like this one, and I call it limitation. Limitation is a powerful type of practice, especially for improvisation and jazz. Limiting what you play and how long you explore it forces you to get in the creative mindset. If you've mostly practiced classical music or focused on learning songs, this kind of practice might feel very foreign. For example, a great exercise for beginners is a simple white key C major melody meditation. I show you how to do this step by step in my course From Lines to Melodies, but basically what it is that you play a C and G in the bass, and you play melodies with your right hand. Our goal is for you to focus on just being at the piano, enjoying playing, and not judging what comes out. Eventually, you'll start to hear melodies that you can play and can try to play what you hear. Once the timer goes off, you're done, and you can try it again tomorrow. You might think that this is too limiting for you, but many jazz pianists use limitation as their primary method of practice. Fred Hirsch recommends using a basic kitchen timer, but I love this simple Pomodoro cube timer since it's so easy to use and it already has some predetermined amounts of times to practice with. Another example of limitation practice for more advanced jazz pianists might go like this. You say, I'm going to play all the things you are, but I'm only going to play quarter notes and half notes in my right hand, comping with my left, for 10 minutes straight. At first, you're going to feel like you're super restricted, and maybe your playing will feel very hokey or boring. But if you actually stay inside the rules, your brain will be forced to become creative. And once you finish the 10 minutes, now you have a new texture that you can use anytime in your improv. What makes this kind of limitation practice actually work isn't willpower, it's having a clear external stopping point. That's where a simple timer like this becomes really useful. Now, you can absolutely use something that you already have at home, but most people don't have a timer like this that's separate from their phone. I really recommend getting off of your phone and just having something that you can place on the piano and not have to open up your phone in order to work the timer for obvious reasons. You might just end up getting distracted by notifications if you just use your phone. I really like it because it's really physical and it's simple. I just love how you can just flip it and it starts and you don't have any menus or anything like that. So if you want to go ahead and check out this timer that I use, I'll link it in the description. And if you're curious about this idea of limitation practice and you'd like to go further, I have a recent video that I did about 5 different ways to solo on the Christmas song. Each of these 5 different ways to solo you could use as your constraints for your limitation practice. And you could use the timer like this one in order to practice with that particular practice method. So have fun. I hope that you come back and tell me what you practiced in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.